The transfer market is an absolute roller coaster. I mean, seriously, it's like a reality TV show you can't look away from. We've got players jumping ship to their arch rivals and so many cash flying around that makes my wallet cry. But let's be real, nowadays we've grown to expect the unexpected. However, as sure as the sun rises, every year there are a couple of transfers that hit us like a curveball. We're talking about the son of a dictator dribbling his way into Serie A. Yep, you heard that right. And don't even get me started on those bench warmers from average teams suddenly signing with the biggest clubs in the world. I kid you not, after this video you might leave here without a few less brain cells, just like the man who allowed these deals to happen. So buckle up, because we're diving into the transfer tales that'll make you question reality itself. So without further ado, let's jump right into the madness. Number 10. Bebe to Man United. This transfer dates back to 2010 and is still one of the most perplexing deals in football history. Bebe had just joined Vitória Guimarães for free and had yet to make a competitive appearance for the club when he signed for Manchester United. What makes his move even more mysterious is that Sir Alex Ferguson later admitted he had never seen the kid play and acquired him solely due to Carlos Queiroz' advice. To add more fire to the flame, this transfer was investigated by the Portuguese police after it emerged that Jorge Mendes, who became Bebe's agent just days before the move, pocketed 40% of the fee, though no charges were pressed against anyone involved. The only certainty surrounding this mysterious move was that Bebe was nowhere near good enough for United, and he left Old Trafford in 2014 for Benfica after 3 loan moves and just 2 Premier League appearances. Number 9. Julian Faubert to Real Madrid. Who? I know what's in your mind, and I guarantee that everyone thought the same when Real Madrid shocked the world and decided to take the French player on loan from West Ham right in the middle of his debut season in the Premier League. He wasn't even a star for the Hammers, and although there was an option to buy included in the deal, it wasn't activated. But it wasn't because he was an average player. We're talking about a guy who managed to miss an entire training session, all because he was living in a world where he thought day off meant a day off. But wait, there's more. In a match against Villarreal, Faubert was seen sleeping on the bench, and although he denied, nobody in Madrid respected him again after that. Number 8. Martin Braithwaite to Barcelona. Continuing on the topic of Spanish giants making weird moves, in 2020 Barcelona triggered an 18 million euros clause to acquire Martin Braithwaite. But what makes this move even more strange is the fact that it was completed in February, as Barcelona were granted an exception to sign him because Ousmane Dembélé had suffered a long-term injury. On the other hand, Leganés lost their player and didn't receive any compensation since he was on loan from Middlesbrough and ended up getting relegated. Surprisingly though, Braithwaite actually got a lot of game time. The Danish international played 57 times for Barca, but as you'd expect, only scored 10 goals across the 3 seasons he spent in the Camp Nou. Number 7. Bojan Krikic to Stoke City. When British blokes talk about Messi's brilliance, they usually ask, but can he do it in a cold rainy night in Stoke? Well, I guess we'll never know, but Bojan Krikic, the first player to ever be called the next Messi, certainly answered that question. On the back of a disappointing run of loan spells, Bojan was finally sold to Stoke City in hopes he could rebuild his career in the Premier League. And while his signing looked promising on paper, it turned out to be a massive flop, even going down to the Championship with the Potters. After 4.5 seasons in England, he finally departed to Canada before retiring in Japan last year. Oh, what could have been if it wasn't for his mental health issues. Number 6. Esteban Cambiasso to Leicester City. I know that nowadays it's pretty common to see weaker Premier League sides buying world-class players. But back in 2014, when Cambiasso joined Leicester City, everyone was shocked with how random this transfer was. The Argentinian international was a regular at Inter, and considering that he was 34 at the time, if he were to leave his club, he would probably go to a less competitive league. Instead, he decided to roll up his sleeves and help the Foxes survive the returning season in the Premier League. He did just that, performed with the same class as always, but unfortunately didn't stay for the next season and missed the chance of winning the Premier League. Number 5. Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano to West Ham. In 2006, Tevez and Mascherano were 2 of the biggest South American prospects in the world. They had all the big clubs chasing after them, so it was a huge surprise when they signed with mid-table side West Ham. But what raised more concerns was the club's attitude regarding the entire situation. I mean, they signed 2 fantastic players and barely mentioned any details. That of course led to an investigation, and it turned out that West Ham had broken several Premier League rules regarding third-party ownership to complete the deal. However, both players were allowed to play, and Carlos Tevez would go on to have a massive influence on the outcome of West Ham's season, scoring the goal that avoided that relegation. Unsurprisingly though, by the time the next season rolled around, both were long gone from East London, with Tevez leaving for Man United and Mascherano to Liverpool. Number 4. AlSadi to Southampton. Back in 1996, Southampton's coach Graham Souness received a phone call from a man claiming to be Ballon d'Or winner George Weah, who advised a scout to sign his cousin AlSadi. Incredibly, Souness believed them and handed the unknown striker a 1-month contract. His debut was supposed to be in a reserve match against Arsenal, but due to bad weather conditions, that fixture was postponed. Instead, his coach decided to throw him in at the deep end, bringing Dia on as a substitute in a Premier League game against Leeds. Well, if you're wondering how he performed, in the words of Matt Lee this year, he ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. Dia was sent packing 14 days into his contract, and it was later revealed that the Senegalese had absolutely no connection whatsoever to Weah. It was just one of Dia's friends impersonating the African legend. Another shady deal in this video, and further inspiration for any scammers looking to try their luck in the Premier League. Number 3. Gennaro Gattuso to Rangers. Mostly known for his iconic spell with AC Milan, Gattuso once swapped the sunny Italian skies for Scotland when he joined Rangers as a 19-year-old. The fiery midfielder had just achieved promotion with Perugia and wanted to build his career in Italy. But when some Rangers representatives approached his father with a ludicrous amount of money, Gennaro had to leave against his will. Because yes, he might be tough, but being punched in the face by his father and he refused the deal didn't sound too good for young Gattuso. Although the move didn't make sense on paper, it somehow worked out and Gattuso achieved gold status at the Ibrox in just a single season. Number 2. AlSadi Gaddafi to Perugia. Does that name sound familiar to you? In case it doesn't, this guy is the son of Muammar Gaddafi, the dictator who led Libya for over 40 years. And his signing had nothing to do with football. Of course, it was a purely political move, with Silvio Berlusconi, who was then running for Prime Minister, telling Perugia's president Luciano Gauci, another shady figure himself, that signing the son of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi would be good for the country's relationship with Libya. Well, I don't know how that worked out in a political sphere, but before he debuted, he was already testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. But I guess that's what you get when you employ Maradona to train you to compete in Serie A. As you can probably guess, his career didn't really take off, and he retired 3 years later in 2007. And number 1, Cristiano Ronaldo to Al-Nassr. I know what you're thinking, everyone and their mother sign for Saudi clubs these days. Who wouldn't for the ridiculous amount of money they offer? But when Cristiano left United for Al-Nassr, everyone was shocked. Even though he wasn't young by any means, most people expected him to find another home in Europe or to move to the MLS. So when Al-Nassr came calling, they took everyone by surprise. And more so when they actually completed the signing. I mean, let's be honest, unless you're really into niche leagues, you probably had no idea who they were or what colors were their kits. It all started with a weird transfer, but nowadays the Saudis have brought several acclaimed stars and against all odds, really look set to turn their league into one of the biggest in the world. And although it's mostly because of their money, if it wasn't for the huge global influence that Cristiano possesses, none of this would have ever happened. And that is it for the video. Leave a like if you want to watch more content like this, and subscribe so you never miss the most interesting football discussions, news and top 10 lists. As always, thank you for watching until the end, I appreciate you and I will see you soon.